Thanks to Simply Safe for sponsoring this video.
What's up, Bargain family? Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is all about Christmas. This is a Christmas in July collab that the Cozy Christmas Cottage has put together with myself and a bunch of other YouTubers. You gotta let me know if you guys are ready for the holiday season because of course I always am. Now let's begin the video.
The next time you're in Dollar Tree, pick up some foam board. You're gonna be able to do some really cool DIYs using these.
Dollar Tree is carrying pink foam board right now. I purchased 7 of these for this project. Now I'll be creating a house with these foam board pieces. For the front and the back of the house, I decided to create a very top point and then have it come down. I used an L-shaped ruler to do this. I placed the ruler in the center of the foam board and then I used an X-Acto knife to cut through the foam board. I didn't mess with the width or the height that the foam board already is when you buy it when it comes to the front and the back of the house. For both sides of the house, I did a 16-inch width and 17 inches for the height. For the roof, I cut 2 16 by 16 inch pieces. You'll have extra scrap pieces of foam board left. What I recommend doing is cutting these into smaller pieces, and you're going to use these pieces to support your house. You'll be using an uncut piece of foam board as the base for your house. Now take the back of the house and use some hot glue to glue it to your base. As you hold the back of the house in place waiting for the glue to dry, you're going to pour more hot glue where the 2 pieces of foam board meet. You're then going to start taking those scrap pieces I told you to cut down into smaller pieces and start layering them on top of each other, and this is going to create a base that's going to really help support the back of the wall. You can pick up some craft foam sheets from the craft store. These ones I got from Hobby Lobby. There's a glitter finish to them. And you're going to use these pieces to cut out shapes for the window or the door. I used a blue glitter foam to cut out the window shapes and then a white glitter foam to cut out the door shape. Once those pieces are cut out, I then use my hot glue gun to glue them to the foam board. Moving on to the funnest part of all of this, at least for me. You're going to pick up some spackle. I recommend this particular spackle from Home Depot. You're also going to need some piping bags and icing tip. I'm using a star icing tip. The spackle is going to be my fake icing. You can color the spackle if you want to by using an acrylic paint. The reason I'm saying this is the fun part, this is where you really get to have fun and decorate what is supposed to be a gingerbread house. The spackle, like I said, is going to be your icing. And spackle hardens. That way, when you move this around eventually, it's not like the spackle is going to mush up on you and you're going to get your finger stuck in it and it's going to mess it all up. No, it hardens up eventually. Dollar Tree carries spackle, and in each pack of spackle from Dollar Tree, there's 6 ounces. In the gallon that I got from the brand DAP, there's 128 ounces. I would have to spend $26.25 to get 128 ounces of spackle from Dollar Tree. I bought the DAP spackle for $27, and the advantage is it's already mixed for you versus the Dollar Tree spackle where you have to mix all of these containers together and get it to the right consistency. Next up, I purchased some small and medium-sized foam balls from Dollar Tree. To get more bang for my buck, I cut the balls in half. I then painted the balls. I painted some pink and blue, and then others I just kept white. I didn't paint them at all. After the paint is dried, I go ahead and I start attaching all of these balls. Wherever I put any of the balls, oh my gosh, I'm saying that so much, I put some spackle down first, and then I place the ball on top of the spackle. Here's where the pool noodle comes into play for this particular project. Pick up a pool noodle from Dollar Tree. You can spray paint it if you need to. And cut a piece that is about 17 inches long. Once you have that piece cut, slice it down the middle. I made 4 pieces like this total. Now I'm going to take some glittery masking tape that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I am going to wrap it around the pool noodle pieces, just creating kind of like a peppermint design look. Once I have those done, I glue them to the foam board, and then I place some spackle on the top of the pool noodle and place a ball on top of that to kind of hide the funny edges of the pool noodle. I went ahead and I staged my gingerbread house, and now it's time for the big reveal. I just love the way that this turned out, one of my favorite Christmas projects I've ever done, and you guys know I have you covered. Coming up later in the year for the Christmas season, I'll be sharing with you all how I made this more traditional gingerbread house, so make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on because you don't want to miss it. And don't worry, there's going to be more traditional pool noodle DIYs coming up, but first, about our sponsor for this video. Simply Safe is a security system experts trust. US News, PC Magazine, and Popular Science have all ranked Simply Safe Home Security as the best home security of 2021. Having Simply Safe gives me such a peace of mind. Recently, we went on a business trip. We were alerted every time someone walked in front of the house, whether it was the mailman or the next door neighbor, or when my in-laws went to the backyard to check up on things for us, we were alerted. It's a great feeling to know that if anyone were to break into my home, Simply Safe's professional monitoring services will alert us and authorities right away. Simply Safe systems ship directly to your door and can be set up in around 30 minutes. They have door and window sensors that I love. Every time someone opens a door or a window, the Simply Safe base station makes a noise letting you know a door or window was open. Now, if you have your Simply Safe set to home or away, if someone unwanted breaks into your home, the alarm goes off loudly, alerting you, authorities, and even your neighbors. You can check up on your home no matter where you're at by just going into your Simply Safe app. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/bargainbethany to learn more. Now on to more projects. Now you might have some pool noodle left over when you're doing other projects. What you're going to do is you're going to grab some paint. Since I did some really pretty pastel colors, I'm going to continue that theme. And you're just going to create stripes on your pool noodles in different colors. This is supposed to look like candy. I recommend using a paint sponge to do this. It makes it so much easier, especially if you're not good with getting a perfect line. Now I got 2 of these small pieces of craft foam. Dollar Tree carries them in a variety pack. I'm going to fold it into small little pieces to create a fan shape. Once I have that shape, I'm going to pinch it at the bottom and use glue to attach it in place so that it doesn't unfold on you. And you're going to have to do this to the front and the back of the fan. Now I cut the end of the fan in a little bit more of an angle, that way they place really nicely in the ends of the pool noodle. I do put some glue at the very bottom and then I put them through the pool noodle. You can leave it at just this, but you guys know me, I like to do the most. So I got these fake sprinkles from Etsy. I'll try to remember to link the seller down below, but I'm so bad at remembering things. I decided to glue some of these sprinkles on top of the pool noodle. I thought this really helped match the decor that I already own, and it just looks really, really cute this way. You can also paint little sprinkles on if you want to instead. Isn't this just the sweetest? No pun intended. I want to make so many more of these. I think it turned out absolutely adorable and it's so easy to do. If you're not a fan of painting on the stripes, you can get streamers. I purchased these streamers from Dollar Tree, and what you'll do is you'll glue strips of the streamers around your pool noodle. That way you don't have to paint whatsoever. I'll be turning this particular piece into a jumbo Smartie candy. So I went to Google Images and I typed in Smartie's logo. I saved that picture and then I went ahead and I blew it up. That way I can print out a big image. I used school glue to glue the image to the pool noodle, and then I wrapped this around with some cellophane wrap from Dollar Tree, and I made some jumbo Smarties using a pool noodle. Why stop there with the sweets? You guys know me on this channel. I love to create fake sweets. So this time around, we're doing a pool noodle lollipop. What you're going to do is take your pool noodle and start to roll it inward to create a lollipop shape. And as you're rolling, you're holding the pool noodle in place, waiting for the glue to dry. Because if you let go while the glue is still hot, this is going to unravel on you. Now I will say this has always been a little bit difficult for me. So after I have it all rolled in, I like to take a large zip tie and tie it around the pool noodle to really wait for that glue to dry so this doesn't unravel. Then once I know the glue is dried, I cut the zip tie off and you can see the pool noodle is good to go. Now I'm going to be using some chunky yarn. I purchased this at Hobby Lobby and I'm going to glue it around the pool noodle. There are these lollipops called chenille lollipops. They're very popular and they're expensive, especially during the holiday season. So they're really easy to try to make on your own just by using the Dollar Tree pool noodles and some yarn. I created a larger hole using some pliers through the bottom of my lollipop. This way I could feed a large wooden dowel I got from Hobby Lobby through the bottom so that it could be my lollipop stick. Now I'm going to be using some Elmer's school glue and foam beads that I got from Dollar Tree. I apply the glue all over the pool noodle, and then I just place the foam beads on top of the glue. I make sure there's a lot of glue on the pool noodles, and then I place my foam beads right over. I make sure there's a lot of glue on the pool noodles because I want a lot of foam beads to attach to it, just because I think it looks really pretty this way. Once you're done gluing the foam beads, flip the lollipop around to get rid of any of the loose foam beads. I then decided to paint the wooden dowel white. I'm going to be gluing a bow underneath the lollipop. I actually am using a satin head wrap that I got from Dollar Tree. Any chance I get to buy a bow already made, I do, because I'm just not the best at making them myself. And there you have some jumbo lollipops. I had a bunch of yarn and foam beads left over for some more lollipops. Now there's a more traditional way of making the pool noodle lollipops. You get some colored tape and wrap it around the pool noodle. So that's exactly what I did. I got this really pretty light pink tape at Hobby Lobby and I wrapped it around the pool noodle, creating a peppermint design. Then you roll the pool noodle inward. Again, you're using hot glue and you're waiting for the hot glue to dry before rolling it in some more. Instead of making a lollipop, I'm going to make a jumbo peppermint piece. So I got some cellophane wrap from Dollar Tree and I wrap it around this pool noodle, creating that jumbo peppermint piece. Super easy to do. We're going to be doing a gigantic wreath. So you're going to use the dandelion multi-purpose wire. And this is going to be great to hold your pool noodles together. So I'm going to be using 2 pool noodles and I feed them through some wire. And then I use my wire cutter to cut the excess wire. I then tape where the 2 pool noodles meet. I went with a red tape that I got from Dollar Tree this time around, just so it blended nicely with everything. Now the wire is easy to form into a circle, so I went ahead, formed it into a circle, and I closed off the other end using some tape. Now I'm going to make another wreath form that's going to go in the middle because I want there to be a big surface for ornaments to be glued down onto. And I basically did the same thing. I took 2 pieces of pool noodle, I cut them down to fit the inner part of that wreath form, and then I add my wire and tape it off. Once I had those 2 pieces made, I add more tape just to attach both of these pieces together. Then it's time to decorate. I'm using ornaments that I got from Dollar Tree. Now I ended up using 12 of these packs and I just glued them all over the place. I accidentally bought ones with a satin finish and glitter, and then a glitter finish and a shiny finish. I meant to just buy all of the satin and glitter ones, but instead I bought, like I said, a shiny one. So I don't know. I had to make it work. I then went and I added some of these peppermint ornaments, and I used 6 packs of these ones. And then after I got those glued down, I took anything I had left over and I just filled them in the inner part of the wreath. And I didn't really worry about the outer part because you couldn't really see it unless you go way on the side of the wreath. Other than that, you can't see it. So I didn't worry about that. I used $21 of Dollar Tree products to create this. So 12 packs of those ornaments, 6 of the peppermint, 2 pool noodles, and then masking tape. The wire isn't necessary for this DIY, but it does help a lot. So if you don't have the wire and you need to get glue sticks, it'll cost you more. But remember, you're going to have a bunch of wire left over for other projects, and you'll have a bunch of glue left over for other projects. The pool noodle wreath I made last year was my favorite wreath I ever made on my channel, and now this beats that. It is huge. It is beautiful. I love the way this came out. This is like hands down my favorite wreath I've ever made, like I said, and I've made so many wreaths on this channel. I am so in love with our next DIY. Of course, you're going to take your pool noodles and wrap them up with your duct tape. I'm going with white again, but as I said, Dollar Tree carries a bunch of different colors. And I'm going to do this to 2 pool noodles. Then I'll take a 3rd pool noodle and I'll cut that down to be steps of a ladder. And I do the same thing with my duct tape wrap that around the smaller pieces. Now I'll be gluing these smaller pieces of pool noodle to the bigger pieces to create essentially a ladder. And I just use hot glue to do this initially, but then I decided to take some wire and feed that through the steps to make sure it was nice and secure. I'm just using dandelion multi-purpose wire. It's really great for stuff like this. It doesn't always work perfectly with the pool noodle because you can be like, oh, why don't you use that to do the lollipops? There's resistance to it, so you have to do things that are just more simple round things or straight and to the point. Now I'm going to take these elves that I got from Dollar Tree and glue them to my pool noodle. I customized them using my Cricut, and I just glue them in different positions. I also got this little Santa Claus that I decided to add to the very top ladder. I want to say this is just for decor. If you have young children, you want to place this somewhere where they're not going to get to it, or tell them, you can't climb this thing. I have Cooper, who is obviously a year old, but this is not going to be anywhere near him. And because he's still so young, I don't think he's going to try climbing this, but he will try eating this. So this isn't going to be anywhere for Cooper to get to. This is not a toy. I adore the way that this came out. I absolutely love it. I love the elves on top of that with the customized names on there. It just makes it so personal to me. I love it. Next hack, I'm actually recycling one of the pool noodles I just used because I only had 4 of them to work with in this video. So what I did is I cut one of the pool noodles in half. So now I have 2 pieces of shorter pool noodles. Now I'm taking some elf shoes and I'm going to be placing the pool noodles inside of the elf shoes. I got these ones from Target. I don't know if Dollar Tree carries any elf shoes. Now I did want to stuff it up a bit, the shoe, so that it looks like more so a foot's inside of there, and I ended up just using some packaging pieces, or what is it, packaging foam that I got inside of a package from Amazon. You can stuff it with a towel if you want to, cotton, it's up to you. Once I have it stuffed, I went ahead and placed my pool noodles inside, and then I stuffed it up a little bit more so that my pool noodles wouldn't be falling out of the shoes. What am I going to do with these, you ask? I'm going to put them under my Christmas tree. So it looks like an elf is hiding under the Christmas tree, and I love this one. I actually want to paint it green, and if I do it, I'll probably show it at the end of this video because I want it to look like the Grinch is under my tree. I currently have a Grinch theme to my decor, so that's what I want to do with these things. Like I told you guys, I only had 4 pool noodles, so I had to reuse one of the light post noodles to do another DIY. So I went ahead and I took the duct tape off of that pool noodle, and I'm going to be using this noodle to make a Christmas tree. So I got a planter pot from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use this as the base of the Christmas tree. Then I take my pool noodle and I cut it up, and I cut up a piece that's going to go over the top of that planter. I want it to be a little bit bigger so it doesn't just fall inside of the planter. And I use some green duct tape that I got at Dollar Tree to attach the pool noodle together so it kind of makes like a wreath form. I then take the other piece of the pool noodle that I have left over and I make another type of wreath form, but I make it a little bit smaller so that it can go over the bigger one, because obviously you want the tree to get smaller the higher up it gets. I wouldn't worry about making the duct tape perfect because it's going to get covered up anyway. So I only had enough noodle to make 2 of those rings, but if you have more noodles, you can obviously make your tree bigger or use more rings. Next up, I'm going to be taking some garland from Dollar Tree. I ended up using 5 of these garlands total, and there's 15 feet in each garland, and I'm just wrapping it around my little wreath forms. I recommend cutting the garland into smaller pieces and wrapping it that way, because if you try to take the entire 15-foot piece, it kind of gets annoying because it's so much and it gets in the way when you're putting it through the center of the wreath form. So it's easier to cut it into smaller pieces and wrap it around that way. Since I didn't have any more pool noodles left over, I had 2 small pieces that I had cut off of the pool noodle when I was making the elf legs. So it was just a little bit that I cut off so that the elf legs would fit inside of my Christmas tree. So I took those 2 pieces and I shoved them in the middle of the top wreath form that I made. And then I took more garland and I was just wrapping it around those 2 pieces, and I kept wrapping and wrapping until I made the top of my Christmas tree. If you have more pool noodles, like I said, you can just do a bunch of circles and make them smaller and smaller the closer you get to the top of the tree. So you want to put something inside of the planter. I'm going to be using stones from Dollar Tree, and you want to fill it up quite high because you don't want this to be top heavy. And if it's top heavy, there's nothing inside of the planter, the tree's going to keep falling on top of you. So you want there to be something in the inside. It doesn't have to be stones, it's just what I used. After that, I put glue around the rim of the planting pot, and then I placed the tree on top of there. So first I started off with the bigger wreath form. I placed that on top of there. I added more glue on top of that wreath form, and then I placed the smaller wreath form on top of that. You can add more glue in different areas to secure it up a little bit more if you like. You can leave it at just that. I decided to add my favorite word, ornaments, to this. So I'm using some Santa Claus clothes looking ones that I got from Dollar Tree, and again those little swirly ones, I added those, and then I added some green glittery ones from Dollar Tree and some small little gold ones. I then decided I wanted to add some little flowers to this, so I got these little poinsettias from Dollar Tree. I took them off of the main stem and I glued them to my tree. It's very similar to what I did to my regular Christmas tree this year. I used Dollar Tree poinsettias. I didn't glue them to the Christmas tree, but I just took them off of the main stem and I placed them all throughout my tree. Next up, I take a bow from Dollar Tree and I just glue that to the bottom of the Christmas tree, and then this is what I came up with. Like I said, you can make a bigger tree if you want to, and I actually ended up ordering some pool noodles from Amazon because I'm making more of these. I think they go so well outside with my Christmas decor that's already out there, so I want to make some more that I can place outside. This was inexpensive for me to make, so I'm looking forward to making more of these.
For our next DIY, you're going to take your pool noodle and cut it into different lengths. It's up to you how big or how small you want them to be. I ended up cutting 6 pieces total. Now I'm going to be using some LED tea lights for this. Dollar Tree does carry them, but I wasn't able to find them, so I went somewhere else and I got this pack for $3. Now on the top of my pool noodle, I am going to cut out a hole that is going to fit the tea lights, and I just use an X-Acto knife to do this. You can use a regular knife if you want to, just as long as it's going to cut nicely. And then you just take your tea light and make sure that it fits the inside, and you're ready for the next step.
From Michael's, I picked up these glitter foam sheets, and I like these because then I don't have to put glitter all over this and it becomes a really big mess. All I have to do is roll the sheet over the pool noodle and then cut it down. I only had 3 sheets on hand, so on the back of every candle I didn't entirely cover it in that foam just because, like I said, I didn't have enough on hand. So I got the front of each one and the sides done, just not the backs of them. But it's okay because the backs of them are going to be glued to each other. After that, I go ahead and I add my glue to the craft foam, and then I place my pool noodle on top of it. I held the foam in place waiting for it to dry, and then once I think it was dry enough, I let go of it. I did this to every single candle. I then glued down that circle we cut out earlier and placed that around the tea light at the top. Now it's time to glue all of my candles together. You don't have to glue them all together if you don't want to, but I wanted to make a bigger piece, and by making it bigger, it prevents tipping over the pool noodle easily just because they're so lightweight. I messed around with the heights of everything, and then I glued them down, and I made sure that the parts where I didn't have any foam I placed toward the back or touching the other pieces. What you're going to do is you're going to start creating a wax appearance to the top of your candles. So I take my glue gun and I just create drips so it looks like wax is dripping. And this is great also because it helps seal any of the areas that look funny where some of the pool noodle might still be showing, or where the foam kind of looks funky. You can use the glue stick to hide those areas, disguise them, and just make it look like wax is dropping and melting down. It looks really, really cool. You can even get glitter glue sticks if you want to and use that instead. You can paint over the glue stick if you want a different color. There's a lot of different things that you can do to this. So this only cost me $4 to make, $3 for the lights, and $1 for the pool noodles. If you get the lights at Dollar Tree, it'll cost you the same because it's $1 for 2. So it'll pretty much cost you $4 to do. Unless you don't have glue sticks, like I said, and then it costs a little bit more money. Obviously, if you don't have a glue gun, it'll cost more money. It depends what you have, but remember, lots of things you can reuse for other projects.
For our next DIY, you're going to want to cut down your pool noodle. You can also leave it one gigantic piece if you honestly wanted to, but I went with 3 pieces that I cut from one pool noodle, and I had some left over. Now, we are going to use Mod Podge for this and toilet paper. What you're going to do is you're going to place Mod Podge on top of the pool noodle and then add sheets of toilet paper. So we're going to try to create a wood look, and this is going to provide some texture that we need. So you'll add your toilet paper, add more Mod Podge on top of the toilet paper, and if you like, which this is what I did, add more toilet paper on top of that until you get a nice texture that you want. So we're going to try making birchwood, and birchwood has a flaky appearance to it, so this helps a lot with that. You're going to wait for your glue to completely dry before you paint this. Now what I did was take some white paint and I added that as my base color. You can go with any color honestly that you want to. Once I had that down and that dried, I took different tones of brown and a gray paint to paint the rest of this. So I initially mixed some brown and gray paint together, and I lightly glide a sponge brush over this. And what ends up happening, because I lightly glide the paintbrush, it attaches to the nice creases that are in the toilet paper, so it doesn't just make it an opaque brown color. It just goes in the areas that I want it to darken up some of the areas and make it look a little bit more like birchwood. I mixed together a brown and gray paint with a little bit of purple, just a very little amount of purple, and then I just apply that, like I said, to different areas. I mainly went with areas that kind of had deep creases in them to give it a bit more depth. Then I go in with a dark brown color that I use to just create the lines that are very similar to birchwood. This came out really cool. I like it more than the Target one, though I do like the Target one's colors, but this one looks more realistic. I love the way that this turned out, and it's so cool that it was made using pool noodles and toilet paper.
Okay, for our next DIY, you're going to take your pool noodle and you're going to cut it down the middle. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm kind of just bending it, kind of getting an idea of where the middle is, and then kind of cut where I think the middle is. And I'm just using a scissor to do this. You don't really have to worry too much about it. And if you have a pool noodle that's just kind of bent out of shape, don't worry about that. We're going to be able to fix that right up. As we've done with pretty much most of these DIYs, you're going to take your duct tape and you're going to wrap it around your pool noodle. I'm going with white, of course, because I like the peppermint look. But you can go with whatever color you want. Dollar Tree carries so many different colors. You can even go with like a neon or a glittery kind of duct tape. Next up, you're going to want to get yourself some jumbo ornaments. Now, Dollar Tree carries these. I couldn't find them at my local Dollar Tree, so I went to Walmart. I got this 9-pack for $9.98. So I paid 98 cents more than I would have for 9 of them at Dollar Tree. And I will say they're a little bit smaller than the ones that Dollar Tree carries. Now what you're going to do is glue your ornament to the end of one pool noodle. On top of some of the pool noodles, I'm actually going to glue on these snow globes, and I'm going to place inside of them some fairy lights that I got from Dollar Tree. And these are the larger snow globes, and I'm keeping this cap there at the bottom, and that's what I'm using to glue onto the pool noodle, because if I glue this down, how the heck am I going to turn that on and off? So I'm leaving that lid there.
After filming this, I actually decided to get some ribbon from Dollar Tree that is covered in glitter and wrap that right through the center of the white masking tape. I just wanted to do something a little bit different since everything I was doing was just using the white masking tape. So I only had to put glue on one side. I didn't have to worry about the other side, because as long as you're pulling that tight, it's going to stay in place and it's going to go exactly where you need it to go.
So I'm going to be sticking these outside. You can use a toilet plunger from Dollar Tree, the handle part of it, and stick that in your ground to hold up your pool noodles. It's actually cheaper though if you go somewhere else and find pieces of wood and just break them up. I actually got wooden dowels, broke them up, and I placed the rest through the wooden dowels. It was cheaper to do it that way. Then I took some red ribbon and I glued it to the pool noodles. I wish I did a better job of this, but I was trying to rush because I have to take care of Cooper while filming. It's really tough. Anyways, this is how it came out. I actually wanted to make more as well so I could do the entire part of one of my sidewalks, but time-wise it just didn't work out for me. Another thing you can do, which I showed last year, you do the pool noodle, and this time around you're gonna put the handle of a Dollar Tree broom through the pool noodle and then add one of these solar power lights from Dollar Tree. They carry different ones. I'm using the ones that look like Christmas lights. You just put it through the top and then it gets its energy from the sun and it glows at nighttime. It's really pretty.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our masking tape and we're gonna just wrap it around the pool noodle to get a stripe look to it. It's better to slowly unravel the masking tape and use your fingers to rub out any bubbles than it is to just kind of like unravel too much of the masking tape. Now we're going to take one more pool noodle and we are going to attach it to this one. So continue rolling, and then when the tape is kind of like popping out, you're gonna start attaching the other pool noodle. Then where they meet, you're gonna take your tape and you're just gonna go right around it. You really just want to make sure this isn't gonna unravel on you. Okay, I'm at the end of my noodle and I just cut off the tape. And I was able to wrap all this up with one Dollar Tree duct tape, and I still have more left over. So you're gonna work in little sections and you're gonna make sure that you're using a dual temp hot glue gun or at least a low heat hot glue gun. Do not use anything hot, too hot, because it's gonna melt the foam. So what you'll do is you'll add some glue and then you're gonna slowly start to roll everything inward. You're just gonna wanna hold a little bit so that the glue starts to kind of dry. I got these large zip ties from Dollar Tree. They're gonna be super handy for this. I'm gonna attach two of them together. This is when your zip tie is gonna come in handy. You're gonna take your zip tie and you will tighten it around the pool noodle and wait for the glue to dry. Anyhow, we're gonna make these more sturdy than last year, kind of more wind resistant if you're sticking this outside. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take like a knife and you're gonna stab through the pool noodle and you're just gonna start a hole. The reason you wanna use a knife is because we'll be using a stake, a wooden stake, and this is gonna make this more sturdy. It's gonna help support the pool noodle. Once I have that kind of worked out, I just slide it right in. Now that I've waited about 20 minutes, I am going to go ahead and take the zip ties off. You can leave your stake at just this color, but I want to paint mine white. And I'm using just a white paint and it's indoor-outdoor use. I'm gonna use some cellophane wrap, which is just gonna be like the wrapper on top of the lollipop. Take the bunch of cellophane at the bottom and you're gonna tighten that. To tighten this, I'm just using some twine. Literally, you can use anything. Now I'm gonna glue on one of these bows from Dollar Tree to the front of the lollipop. And I got this ribbon from Dollar Tree that I think would be cute little add-on. And there you have it, a jumbo lollipop. This is 2 times the size as the one that I made last year, and it's more sturdy, so it's gonna hold up better outside if that's your plan. Remember, if you want to do this inside, you just get a wooden dowel versus a stake. I love the way that this turned out.
For our next DIY, you want to buy some gift wrap paper at Dollar Tree. I'm using this one that has a peppermint look to it. Now you're going to cut down your pool noodle if that's what you want, but more than likely you're going to want to cut it down so this doesn't look funny. I got 5 what I consider large pieces out of my pool noodle. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your gift wrap paper and you're going to cut it down so it wraps around the pool noodle. Now I didn't entirely cover my pool noodle. I wanted part of it to be showing in the back because I'm going to be sticking this on my wall in command strips, and I want to be able to reuse this. I can't put command strips on the gift wrap paper, take it off of my wall and reuse it next year without it ruining the wrapping paper. So I have a little bit of pool noodles showing. Now I take some tape and I tape off the wrapping paper on both ends, but I leave that middle part with nothing so I can, like I said, use some command strips there. So we're making wrapped up pieces of candy. You're gonna take the ends of your wrapping paper and you're gonna scrunch them up and tie those down using twine, rope, whatever you like. And then I'm going to take some cellophane and do the exact same thing. I'm going to cut it down, but not too much, so I have the back still showing with the foam, and then I tie it down. After I made this initial one, I realized that I could just cut the gift wrap, cut the cellophane, and tie those down at the same time without being repetitive and doing it twice. You can make even bigger pieces by bunching up pieces of foam. So I got 2 pieces of foam that are similar to each other, place them side by side, and do the exact same thing. I cut up some wrapping paper, some cellophane, add my twine. It's so easy to do. You can make smaller pieces, put them inside of your Christmas tree. It's really inexpensive, and you can make quite a few out of one pool noodle. And this is what I mean by I left foam showing in the back. So I place my command strip on the back, and then I put that on my wall. If I put the command strip on the gift wrap and I try to take it out at the end of the season, it's gonna rip the wrapping paper, so I didn't want to do that. I'll share with you guys how I made the gingerbread garland in a different DIY, so make sure you're subscribed for that. But I just added candy on my walls, I added it on the cabinets. It came out so cute. I couldn't do a better job of getting the whole kitchen in my video because my kitchen's so tiny, but what you can see it's cute.
That's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you check out everybody else in the playlist linked down below. Again, thanks to Simply Safe for sponsoring this video. They're always such a great support to this channel, and I really appreciate it. I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.